She stood on the edge of death till the human spoke. The wind was cold, sharp. It touched her silver skin like a warning. She stood at the edge of the broken sky bridge. Below her, nothing but clouds and dust. One step forward, and everything would end. Her name was Allah, the last daughter of the fallen world Sephora. Her city was gone. Her people were gone. The stars had turned their backs on her now. Only silence remained. Her dark eyes stared down into the deep, endless sky. Her legs shook, but it wasn't fear. It was sorrow. A sorrow so heavy it felt like chains around her heart. "I'm sorry," she whispered to no one. "I wasn't strong enough." She closed her eyes and leaned forward. "Don't." A voice. A deep, quiet voice behind her. Not cold, not angry. Just ... calm. Allah froze. She turned her head slightly, just enough to see the figure standing a few steps away. A human. He looked worn, like someone who had lost many things. His jacket was torn. His boots were dirty. His face was hidden under a hood. But his voice was steady, and his eyes were sharp. "Go away," she said. Her voice cracked like breaking glass. "No," he said simply. She frowned. "Why, you don't even know me?" He took one small step forward. "I don't have to. I know what you're thinking. I've been there too." Allah looked down again. "Then you know it doesn't matter anymore? They're all gone. My family, my planet, everything." She heard him take a breath. Then he sat down right there on the cold metal of the bridge. Like they were just talking. "I was a soldier," he said. "Earth's last war. We lost. My unit, ... My friends, ... My brother. All gone." Allah turned to look at him now. The wind pushed her hair across her face. "What stopped you?" she asked. "Why are you still here?" The man looked out at the clouds. "Because I met someone who told me a story. A story about a small flame in the dark. And how even one flame can keep the cold away." She shook her head. "That's just words." "No," he said. "That's hope." Silence again. Only the wind. Then, slowly, she stepped back from the edge. Her legs felt weak, her heart heavy, but she stepped away. The man stood too. "You don't have to say anything," he said. "But if you want, I have a place not far from here. It's safe. You can rest." Allah looked at him, unsure. "Why are you helping me?" He smiled a little. Just a small, tired smile. "Because once, someone helped me too." She didn't know what to say. Her world had only given her pain. Trust was hard. But something in his eyes, sad but still burning, made her believe. For the first time in days, she didn't feel completely alone. "Okay," she said. They walked side by side across the broken bridge. Allah looked over her shoulder one last time at the ledge. She had been ready to end it all. But a single voice, a human voice, had reached into the darkness and pulled her back. She didn't know who he truly was. She didn't know what came next, but for now, she would follow him, and maybe, just maybe, find a reason to live again. He carried her away from the edge, but toward more danger. Ella collapsed. Her legs gave up as soon as they crossed the last metal beam of the sky bridge. She had held her pain in for too long. Now her body said enough. The human caught her before she hit the ground. He didn't say a word. He just picked her up gently, like someone carrying something fragile. Her arms hung limp, her eyes closed. But she was breathing, still alive. That was enough. For now, he walked for hours through the ruins of fallen towers and dead ships. The sky above was a dull red. The planet was broken. But the human walked like he had a purpose. Like he had done. This before he reached a large hill of twisted metal. At the bottom was an old cargo ship, half buried in the sand. Its wings were gone, its engines were dead. But its steel walls still stood strong. He kicked open a hidden panel and stepped inside. Inside. It was dark, cold, quiet. The human laid Allah down on a soft pile of cloth and turned on a small solar light. It buzzed, then glowed. The light touched her face. She was pale. Her silver skin was covered in dust. But even in her pain, she looked calm now, peaceful. He sat beside her, watching her sleep. His name was Reed, though he hadn't spoken it in years. No one had asked. No one had cared, until now. Bang! The sound was sharp, close. Reed jumped up and turned off the light. He grabbed the weapon from under his coat-rusted energy pistol, half-powered but still dangerous. Outside, he heard footsteps, not human, heavy. Wet, dragger beasts, maybe. Or worse. He moved silently to the side of the ship, where a small gap let him see outside. Through the crack, shapes moved tall, armored, holding scanner. Rods, hunters. Alien bounty hunters, they were searching the ruins. For her, Reed cursed under his breath. He had hoped they wouldn't follow. He was wrong. One of the hunters stopped right outside the ship. It raised its scanner. The machine made a shrill sound, then dashed silence. Reed held his breath. A low growl rumbled from one of the hunters. Then, ... They moved on. Reed waited 10 more minutes, just to be sure. Then he powered down the scanner blocker and returned to Allah. She was awake. Her eyes were wide, her breath shaky. I heard them, she whispered. I know, he said. They were. Looking for me? Reed looked at her, quiet for a moment. Then he shook his head. No, he said. They weren't. Allah blinked. What do you mean? They were scanning for a human energy trace. Not yours, mine. She sat up, confused. Why would they want you? Reed stood up and walked to a locked case. He opened it slowly. Inside was something wrapped in dark cloth. He took it out, carefully. Gently, he removed the cloth. A sword. It didn't shine. It didn't glow, but it felt powerful. Even Allah felt the air shift. What ... is that? She asked. Reed's voice dropped to a whisper. They call it the Blade of Origin, a first builder weapon. Ila's eyes widened. Toza, just legends. Not all of them, he said. This sword doesn't respond to machines or aliens, only humans. She looked at him in fear and awe. You have it. That's why they're hunting you. Reed nodded. I didn't ask for this, he said. I found it in the ashes of my brother's outpost. He died guarding it. I've been running ever since. Allah looked at him. Why didn't you use it? Reed's face went cold. Because every time it's used ... People die, cities fall. And I don't want to be that kind of human. They both sat in silence. The air inside the ship was heavy now with history, danger, and truth. Later that night, Allah stood outside the ship. The sky above was darker now. Stars poked through the clouds. Reed walked up beside her. I should leave, she said. I'm putting you in danger. He shook his head. They'll find me no matter what. But maybe now. I don't have to. Run alone. She turned to him. Why are you helping me? Really? Reed didn't smile. He just looked at her, eyes steady. Because you remind me of someone I couldn't save. And maybe this time, I can do it right. She didn't answer, but she didn't walk away either. They stood together in the dark. A broken girl and a hunted man. And somewhere above, in the stars, the hunters turned their ships. The chase had begun. The human's secret why the aliens want him dead. The sword lay on the table like it was sleeping. No wires, no power core, no lights. Yet it felt alive. Allah stared at it. She had seen many weapons in her time plasma guns, ion blasters, even mine needles. But this was something else. The sword seemed quiet, but dangerous. Like a wolf waiting in the dark, Reed watched her from the other side of the room. He didn't speak. Not yet, Allah finally asked, "How does it work?" Reed shook his head. "It doesn't." She looked at him, confused. "It doesn't work for everyone," he said. "Only one human at a time. And right now, it listens to me." Allah stepped back. "Is it alive?" "No," he said. "But it remembers. It knows who holds it." He walked to the table and placed his hand on the sword. Nothing happened for a second. Then a faint hum filled the air. Allah felt it in her bones. The blade lit up not with fire, but with a soft pulse of energy. The kind she had only read about in First Builder records. Power not from machines, but from the soul. Reed lifted the sword with both hands. A symbol glowed on the hilt. A single word, written in old human tongue. Last, Law's voice was small. "What does that mean?" Reed looked at the blade, his eyes far away. "It means I'm the last person it chose." Later, they sat near the small heater inside the ship. Outside, the wind howled like a wounded animal. The ruins groaned, but inside, there was silence. Allah broke it. Where did it come from? Reed looked at her. He didn't want to answer, but he did. Long ago, before the galaxy had empires, humans and aliens fought side by side against something worse. Worse, she asked. Reed nodded. A machine plague, swarm that erased whole planets. Allah remembered stories from her childhood, tales her mother told in whispers. "The gray storm," she said. Reed's face darkened. That's what they called it. He took a breath. When the storm came, nothing worked. Shields, guns, tech, they failed. But the first builders, they made weapons that used living memory, tools that fed off will and heart. That's what the sword is. Allah looked down, and now it's yours. No, he said. Now it's a curse. She didn't understand at first. But then he told her the rest. I was part of a squad, Reed said. 5 of us. We found an old bunker. Inside, the sword waited. He closed his eyes, remembering. My brother, Captain Jace, touched it first. It burned him. So did the others. When I reached for it, it let me hold it. Allah listened, silent. They cheered, he said. They thought it was a sign. But then the killing began. He looked at his hands. They came for us. The ones who worship the old tech. The collectors. They believe only their kind should hold builder weapons. So they sent assassins. Mercenaries, shadows, Allah whispered. The ones who chased us. Reed nodded. They wiped my squad, all of them. My brother died trying to protect me. I ran. I've been running for 2 years. Allah looked at him with new eyes now. Not just a survivor. A hunted legend. Why didn't you fight back? She asked. Reed's voice was cold. Because every time I use it, something breaks inside me. The next morning, the scanner beeped. A small ship was entering the atmosphere. Reed and Allah rushed to the viewing screen. It wasn't a warship. It was small, fast, black wings. One of the Whisper ship stealth scouts from the Collector Empire. Elah's heart raced. They found us. Reed stared at the ship. No, they were never far. They were waiting for something. He looked at the sword. They were waiting for me to show it to someone. Allah turned pale. They tracked its signal. Yes, Reed said. He grabbed the sword and slid it into a worn sheath. His face changed. No more calm, no more running. Only fire. He looked at her. I need to end this. Allah stood in front of him. Not alone. Reed paused. She stepped closer. I've lost everything. My family, my home. I won't lose this fight too. Let me stand with you. Reed saw the truth in her eyes. Pain, courage, fire. He gave her a nod. The ship outside began to land. Sand blew across the ruined metal ground. The door opened slowly, and from the shadows, 3 figures stepped out, tall, silent. Eyes like burning cold. Hunters. But this time, Reed wasn't running, and Allah wasn't falling. The planet of slaves where her people still cry the ground shook. Dust rose as the black whisper ship lifted off. Leaving behind the bodies of the fallen hunters, Allah stood beside Reed. Breathing hard, they had survived, but the silence afterward felt heavier than the battle. The sword was back in its sheath. Reed's arm was bleeding. Hila's mind was spinning. Why did they leave so fast? She asked. Reed wiped blood from his face. They weren't here to kill. They were here to watch. Allah froze. Watch what? He looked at her. Us. That night, as the fire crackled inside the old cargo ship, Allah stared at a small square screen Reed had powered up. It showed broken signals from deep space, sold comms, hidden channels, pirate talk. She didn't expect anything. But then, a voice came through, crackling, distant and familiar. Allah, if you're alive, don't look for me. It's too dangerous. But I'm still fighting. I still remember you. Hila's heart nearly stopped. The voice was soft, tired, but real. It was her mother. No, Allah whispered, hands trembling. She's alive. She's alive. Reed turned sharply. Are you sure? She nodded, tears rising. That was her voice. She used a secret code phrase. Only I would know. The message continued, faint and broken. They took us to Arvanen. Mining colony, deep tunnels, not many left. They think we're weak, but we remember. Then silence. The signal died. Allah fell to her knees. She's a slave. On a RVAN-9. Reed was already scanning coordinates. The screen lit up with warnings. Arva 9, he muttered. One of the deepest mining worlds, controlled by the collectors. Allah stood. We have to go. Reed hesitated. It's not a rescue mission. It's suicide. I don't care, she said. You saved me when I was about to fall. Now, I need to save her. Reed looked at her for a long time. Then he gave a slow nod. We'll need a ship. And away through their walls. 2 days later, they stood in front of a trade outpost buried in an asteroid field. A smuggler haven, full of broken laws and broken people. Reed had a contact here. His name was Grubba Three-Eyed Alien, with oily skin and a love for bad deals. You want passage to Arva 9? Grub laughed. Even roaches don't go there. That place eats souls. Reed showed him the hilt of the sword. We're not asking. Grub's third eye blinked. He leaned closer. I don't like trouble, human. This isn't trouble, Reed said. It's war. Grub hissed through sharp teeth. Then you'll need a cloaked ship. And forged codes. He slid a data chip across the table. But when they find you, you don't know me. Reed grabbed the chip. Fair. The ship they got was small. Fast. Quiet. They named it Whisper Fall. As it left the asteroid field and turned toward Arvanon, Allah sat by the window, looking at the stars. Why did they take my people? She asked softly. Reed leaned against the wall. The collectors used slave labor for mining lost builder tech. Your people lived near an old builder vault. Allah clenched her fists. So they didn't destroy my home to kill us. They wanted what was under it. Yes, Reed said. And they knew your kind were strong. That's why they kept some alive. Allah stared ahead. Then they'll pay for that. 2 days later, Arva 9 appeared in view. Dark, cold, covered in smoke. From orbit, they saw the massive drills digging into the ground. Factory towers rose like black knives into the clouds. Ships came and went like insects. Reed narrowed his eyes. Too many patrols. We need to go in quiet. They flew low, under the radar. Through clouds and dust, they landed far from the main compound. Hidden in a cave system, Ela's heart beat fast. She had never felt fear like this, not even on the bridge. When she was ready to fall, this was different. This was hope. Hope that her mother was alive, that her people still had voices. Reed handed her a small cum bead. Once we're inside, stay close. They entered through the tunnels. Dark, narrow, echoes everywhere. They saw them, her people, chained, thin, working with shaking hands, faces hollow, but eyes still burning. Ela's chest tightened. One child dropped a tool and got whipped. Allah moved fast, but Reed pulled her back. Not yet, he said. We wait, we plan. She nodded. But inside her heart, something was breaking and rebuilding at the same time. They hid in the shadows, gathering intel. Then they saw her, a woman with silver hair, scars on her arms, but eyes full of fire. Allah whispered, Mother. Reed looked at the woman. She was leading a secret meeting in a corner, whispering to others, planning a break. She hasn't given up, he said. She's still fighting. Ela's eyes filled with tears. Then we give her the sword she needs. The monster that obeyed the girl, ground shook. Screams echoed through the mining tunnels of ARVAN-9. Guards shouted. Sirens screamed. Lights flashed red. Reed and Allah had been spotted. They ran through the smoke-filled corridors, laser blasts, cutting into the walls behind them. We can't outrun them forever. Allah shouted. Reed skidded around a corner and slammed his fist on a locked door. This way. The door opened, too fast, too easy. They ran inside, then the door slammed shut behind them. With a loud hiss, they turned and froze. It was not a room, it was a cage. Thick metal bars surrounded them. On the other side, silence. Empty observation windows. Cold lights above. A large door across the room began to open, slowly. With a growl of gears, Reed reached for his sword. Ela's voice trembled. What is this? Testing chamber, Reed said. I've seen them. Before? A deep roar shook the floor. Something was coming. Something huge. From the shadows stepped a beast 10 feet tall. Skin like molten rock. For burning eyes. Metal bolts on its arms. It growled a sound like mountains breaking. Allah stumbled backward. What is that? Reed drew the sword, but the blade flickered. Weak. They're jamming it, he hissed. Tech, disruptors. It's useless here. The monster sniffed the air. Then it locked eyes on Allah and charged. Reed moved fast. He grabbed Allah and rolled aside as the beast smashed into the wall behind them. Stone cracked. Dust flew. The monster roared again and turned. It came at them with wild rage. Reed stood in front of Allah, ready to die. But, stop, Allah screamed. The monster froze, mid-step, its claws, inches from Reed's face. Silence filled the chamber. The beast looked at her. Ela's chest rose and fell fast. Her hands were shaking, her voice barely a whisper. Please, she said, don't hurt him. The monster blinked, then ... Slowly, it lowered its arms. Reed didn't breathe for a second. What ... Just happened. Allah stepped forward. Fear slowly turning into curiosity. Her voice calm. I've seen eyes like that before. On Zephyra, the temple guardians. She looked at the beast. You're not a monster, are you? The creature made a soft growl. Almost like a whimper. Reed stared in disbelief. How is it listening to you? Allah knelt down. Because I think it remembers what I am. Outside the cage, high in the control room, The collector officers watched in confusion. One of them leaned closer to the screen. "Why isn't it killing?" "Them," another hissed. "The girl, she ... commands it." A third older one looked disturbed. "It's not the monster we need to worry about. It's her bloodline." Back inside the chamber, the door opened. Dozens of guards rushed in with shock sticks and chains. They aimed at the beast. It roared, shielding Allah with its huge arms. The first guard fired. The bolt hit the beast, but it didn't fall. Instead, it charged. Reed grabbed Ela's arm. "Now, run." The beast tore through the guards like paper. Allah turned to it. "Come with us." It followed, not because of fear, not because of control, but because it chose her. They escaped into the lower tunnels. The beast cleared paths through locked doors and collapsing walls. When they reached the slave quarters, the miners gasped. Children hid. Elders stepped back. A monster had entered their prison, but Allah stepped in front of it, calm and proud. "This is not our enemy," she said. "This is one of us." Her mother stepped forward. Her voice was strong. "She speaks like her father once did." Reed looked at Allah. "Your father." Allah nodded. "He was a temple speaker. The last one, he could calm the great machines." Her mother continued. "The collectors destroyed the temples because they feared what we could command." Reed's voice was quiet. "First, builder blood. That's why the beast obeyed." Allah looked at the people. "You are not broken. You are not forgotten. I came back for you. And I brought a weapon they fear." She looked at the beast, then at Reed, then at the sword. "The fire is not dead. It's just been waiting." From deep inside the prison, alarms blared again. New forces had arrived. Elite guards, war droids, fire tanks. They were ready to wipe out everything. But this time, Allah and Reed were not running. Allah turned to her people. "It's time to rise." He stood alone against the alien army. The sky over Arvanine turned black. Smoke rose from the prison towers. Fire lit the horizon. The collector army had arrived. Hundreds of armored soldiers, dozens of war droids. Flame tanks rolled through the sand. Inside the mines, Allah helped the wounded move underground. The children were crying. Old ones coughed. But no one gave up. Not after what they saw. Not after the monster obeyed the girl. Reed stood at the front gate, alone, the sword in his hand pulsed like a living heart. The beast whom Allah now called Grath wanted to stay and fight beside him. But Reed shook his head. "Protect her," he told the beast. "If I fall, she leads." Grath growled low, not wanting to leave. Reed placed a hand on its chest. "Please, you're her shield. I'm the sword." Then he turned to the battlefield and walked into the fire. The first enemy unit opened. Fire. Energy blasts lit the sky. Reed didn't dodge. He ran straight into the storm. The sword moved like it knew what to do. It blocked plasma. It cut metal. It melted armor. Soldiers screamed. Machines exploded. But Reed kept going. One man against an army. In the tunnels below. Allah felt every blast above. She held the hand of a scared child. Her heart beat fast. Then a scream echoed down. He's alone. He can't hold them. Allah stood. "I have to go to him." Her mother grabbed her arm. "You'll die." "I'd rather die beside him," Allah said, "than live hiding again." She climbed out of the tunnel. Grath followed her above. She saw him, Reed, surrounded, bleeding, still. Standing, still fighting. She ran, but halfway across the broken yard Reed fell. The sword slipped from his hand. Allah screamed, "No." She rushed to him as the army closed in. Blasters aimed at her. Flames approached. But she didn't stop. She knelt beside Reed and grabbed his hand. He was alive but barely. His voice was weak. "Don't let them win. ... Not again." She looked at the sword lying in the dirt. Then she heard footsteps. A tall collector officer walked forward. His armor was black and gold. His voice like ice. "You should not exist," he told Allah. "You fear what I am," she said. "You are a mistake." He spat, half builder blood, half weakness. Allah stood slowly. Behind her, the miners were watching from the tunnels. Grath growled low. She reached for the sword. It sparked. The officer laughed. "It won't answer to you." She grabbed the hilt. The ground trembled. The sword lit up, brighter than ever. Its glow reached the sky. Symbols danced across the blade. Ela's eyes filled with fire. She stood over Reed's broken body and faced the army. "You think I am weak?" she shouted. Her voice echoed. "I carry the blood of the ones who shaped the stars." She pointed the sword at them, "And I am not alone." Behind her, the miners rose, old, young, wounded, angry. They held tools, rocks, hope. Grath let out a roar that shook the sand. The collector officer raised his hand. "Destroy them." 1,000 guns aimed at her. Allah stepped forward and whispered, "Now." The battle exploded. Grath charged. Miners swarmed. Allah moved like fire. The sword danced in her hands. Every swing sent shockwaves. Machines broke. Soldiers ran. The officer fought her, but he was too slow, too cold, too hollow. Allah struck his chest. His armor cracked. He fell to his knees. "You ... don't understand," he gasped. Ela's voice was firm. "No," she said. "You don't." She turned on, left him behind. She ran back to Reed. He was barely breathing. She knelt beside him, held his face in her hands. "It's over," she whispered. "We won." Reed opened his eyes slowly. "You ... lifted it." She smiled, tears falling. "You gave me the strength." His hand touched hers. "I believed in you." And then he passed out, alive but wounded. Later, the sun rose. The fires died. The soldiers were gone. The sky was quiet. The people gathered around Allah. Her mother stood beside her. "You gave them more than a sword," she said. "You gave them courage." Grath sat nearby like a silent guardian. Allah looked at the sky. "He gave me his heart," she said, "and I gave him a reason to survive." The last words that saved a galaxy. The stars above Arvanine burned quietly now. No warships, no blaster fire, no screams, just wind, silence, and a planet that had survived. But the battle was not over. Not yet. Allah sat beside Reed. He lay on a bed made of mining cloth, breathing slowly, his chest wrapped in healing bands, his face pale but peaceful. She held his hand. Grath watched from the corner. Like a loyal mountain, the people were rebuilding the tunnels, burying the fallen, planting flags made from rags and hope. The rebellion had begun, but something darker still stirred beyond the stars. A message arrived. It came from deep space, through a stolen collector channel. A cold voice: "I am High Warden Shirak of the Collector Empire. Surrender the sword and the Builder Blood Girl, or we will burn 10 planets for each breath she takes." The message ended. No threat, just a promise. Allah stood before the survivors, hundreds now. Some warriors, most broken miners, all watching her. "I cannot give them what they want," she said. "They fear us. That's why they shout. That's why they threaten. Because they know something has changed." She raised the sword, not to show power, but to show choice. "They have machines, ships, armies, but we have something greater: the will to never kneel again." The people roared, a sound that echoed past the rocks and up into the sky. Later that night, Reed opened his eyes. His voice was weak. "You should be resting," Allah said, smiling. He chuckled softly. "I was trying." But someone made a speech that shook the cave. She squeezed his hand gently. "They're looking to us now." Reed stared at the ceiling. "That's a lot of weight to carry." "You carried it for years," she said. "Now let me carry some." He looked at her with tired pride. "You were never falling. Allah, you were flying. You just didn't know it yet." The next day, the sky cracked open. The collector flagship appeared, dark, massive, shaped like a claw, holding a dying star. The people panicked. Some screamed. Some ran, but Allah stood firm. Grath beside her, the sword pulsing in her hand. The ship hovered, waiting, watching, then a transport dropped from its belly and landed near the rebel camp. Out stepped Warden, Shirak tall, wrapped in silver and red armor. His face was hidden by a sharp mask. He walked toward Allah like a storm given legs. No army followed him. He came alone, because he believed no one could stop him. He stopped 10 steps from her, then spoke, "You should not exist." Allah didn't blink. "I've heard that before." Shirak's voice was full of disgust. "Your blood is a mistake, a threat to balance." "You mean your control?" she said. He tilted his head. "The sword belongs to the First Empire. To us, Allah raised the blade. It chooses who has the heart to carry it." Shirak took 1 step forward. "You can't kill me, even with that toy. I've seen the rise and fall of worlds." Reed's voice came from behind. "Then let this be your final view." Shirak turned. Reed stood with Grath, leaning on a walking stick, weak but alive. Shirak laughed. "Look at you, half dead." Reed smiled, enough to remind her she's not alone. Shirak drew a whip blade made of black fire. He charged. Allah stood tall. The sword hummed. Their blades clatched. Light met shadow. Past met future. The duel shook the rocks. Shirak was fast, strong, but Allah was steady. She wasn't fighting to win. She was fighting to protect. The sword grew brighter with every strike she blocked, every person she stood in front of, every life behind her, and finally she struck, clean straight through his mask. Shirak fell to his knees. His face showed for the first time mold, cold, afraid. He looked up, double quotes, "What, are you?" Allah didn't answer with a blade. She answered with words. "I'm the voice of every world you tried to silence." She stepped back and let him fall. The collector ship didn't fire. It watched, and then it turned slowly and left, not out of mercy, but out of fear. Days passed, then weeks. A message came from the outer colonies. One planet rebelled, then another. The fall of Warden Shirak had become a spark across the galaxy. Builder blood and humans, aliens and exiles, rose together, and they remembered one name. Not the sword, not the monster, not even the human. They remembered Allah, the girl who once stood on the edge of death and became the voice that saved the stars.